Hi everyone, Brybone here, back with another one. This week we're taking a look at Amnesiac. Amnesiac is a PowerShell post-exploitation framework. Now, why is this novel? This is novel because I learned of this particular framework via an intrusion. That never happens, right? After a little testing, I have realized that this is slipping by most of the EDRs that I've tested it against. It's pretty crazy. It's very new, so that's not surprising, but it also uses named pipes for its communication, so that may be one of the reasons that it's going undetected. But as of right now, Windows Defender does not detect this, and I will demonstrate that for you, and I'll show you how to do some detection at the SIEM level. But let's take a quick look at Amnesiac. Amnesiac, basically, you can see post-exploit framework designed for lateral movement around the network. It's basically PowerShell lateral movement. You can do WMI, do SMP. It basically is like many other C2 frameworks out there. It's a little lighter weight than some, but it will give you a remote shell, so you can basically run anything you want. You can also do your typical AMZ bypasses to make it even less visible. But for this demo, I will not bypass AMZ in any way, and it will still run. So let's take a look at it. I'm going to come over here to our Kali box to start. And I'm going to set up a Netcat listener, just like normal, right? We're going to play this scenario like user clicked a fish, okay? This is Win10 host 2, our typical victim Clint. And notice Defender is fully on. I haven't edited this in any way. I haven't tampered with it in any way. We're going to run our employee agreement. This is the Excel with macros in it that calls my shell. This still gets by Defender. Of course, I haven't used this a whole lot, so I'm not surprised. It's very targeted custom malware. It's based on macros with macro pack. So if you want to build one on your own, you certainly can. Double click this Excel here, and that's going to pop a shell for us over here. So I'm assuming user clicks a fish, runs our Excel file, gives us a shell. We have our initial foothold, right? So for Amnesiac, though, we're going to want a Windows host running PowerShell on the back end. So I'm going to assume that I've got one here, either that I have another target inside their network that I can run Amnesiac on, or I have some method of getting it to reach back across the internet, whether that be over a tunnel, Cloudflare, ngrok, any of the things, right? But you need the host to be able to reach each other for this to work. Now, real-time protection is on this one, cloud delivery protection, automatic sample submission, tamper protection. Basically everything is on here as well. I'm just doing this to show you that Defender doesn't see this at all, right? I'll close this session and reopen it just to make sure that you guys understand I have not changed anything. We'll go into PowerShell. And then I'm quite simply going to come back over here to our Amnesiac, and I'm going to run a download cradle straight from this host. So I would hope you guys have some kind of detection for download cradles, especially going to raw.github, right? But here we go, and there we go. Ran Amnesiac. Defender is nowhere to be found. So one of the things that Amnesiac does first is it tries to help you set up a listener, just like many other frameworks, right? You have to set up a listener. We're going to do a single listener, but first, I like to not do the defaults because the default is assuming you're running it from cmd.exe. That's been a little buggy for me. But if I go into help here and I go toggle, just like that, it now puts it in PowerShell format automatically. And of course, you could do this yourself. But you do single listener now, and it will give you the payload. So we'll come back over here to our Kali host. We'll go into PowerShell. And this is our beaconed out C2 that we've got our shell back to our Kali host. So we'll come back over here too, and we'll grab our payload. And of course, still fairly obvious from a payload perspective. I would hope you have some kind of detection of this. And we'll run this. And there we go. It exits PowerShell, but then when we come back over here to Windows 4, we should have a connection established. I think we timed out. We'll do it one more time. You can also do a global listener that will just wait. And there we go, we have a session. So now I have control of this host. Now just be aware, if you do a single listener, that is for a single host. If you do a global listener, it's for multiple targets. So if you're wanting to roll this out and play with it on a red team engagement, you can, especially considering that this is slipping by Defender right now. If you have a customer that has a weaker EDR, odds are this won't be detected. You could have a C2 running around the network without much work. So next thing we can do is we can take a look at the host. Once we get in there, we can get into our host and we can simply type help, and it will give you all the things that you can do with Amnesiac here. And it's quite a bit just by default. There are local actions, there are domain actions, but if you scroll up, you can see all these. Here's all the scripts. You can do key logging. There's user activity. You can check local AV and find out what it is. You can see what the processes are. You can see what software is here. So not a bad little shell. And these mostly work, and a lot of them don't set off EDR. Now, if you run Amnesiac, you probably are going to get caught. But if I do something like, let's do hash grab. We'll do hash grab just for fun. I can grab the hash of that user that's running on that system, whether it be useful to me or not. But there's the hash right there, right? And it did invoke grab hash. You can also do these domain actions: DC sync, credential validation, local admin access, password spraying, remoting, session hunting. You're hunting for sessions that are just hanging out there. But crazy thing, no defender. And as I mentioned before, I found this in a real intrusion. Adversaries are using this tool, so pay attention. Now, how can we find this with SIEM if it bypasses EDR? Well, there's a couple of easy ways. Now, what you first want to do is, if you suspect that this is found in your network, you want to be looking for the original base 64 payload. As you know, I ran this encrypted command right here. This is a base 64 payload. So if I come over here to my SIEM and I look for, I'll do event code 4104, and we'll just do start process because we know that it does start process here, right? We can click on this guy, and here we have the base 64 code. So you can grab this, and I did this from SIEM just to show you because you maybe don't have the command line artifact from your host. This is a 4104 event because it is PowerShell script block, so that means you need to have PowerShell script block turned on. Now, if I take this and I go into something like CyberChef, or I use unbase 64 from the command line, this will work and it will give you a lot of information. So if we paste this in here, we can see our host that is our C2 server is this guy. Also, this is the named pipe that is in use. So if you have sysmon and you have named pipe monitoring, sysmon 18, you can find the named pipe. It's a randomly named name pipe. It'll be pretty obvious, right? So this is the detection of that. Now, once you have this named pipe, you can come search your SIEM for anything that was connected to that named pipe, right? Where was that particular named pipe run? So you look for 4104, we look for the named pipe, and you could basically find every host that was infected. So right here, we can see this is 110 host 4. This is the script that was run, but it was run on host 2. So that's how you can find it in your network. Once you have the named pipe name that was used, you can find that throughout your network because it was called via PowerShell, right? Now, detecting the initial use of Amnesiac, say that the loading of that script. One of the best methods to look for is pipe server. So we look for pipe server, just star pipe server pipe or star, and that's going to find anything with pipe server in it. Now, if you look through these, you will see one that is very obvious. Look for the one of ones, and we'll see one with a function that is called Amnesiac in the name right here. And we can see there's function Amnesiac, right? Now, I will say that the adversary that we saw had renamed the function. Whoop-de-doo. You know what they didn't do? they didn't take anything out of the description, which I found very funny. So if you simply search for Leo4j, you'll find that, right? So there's our 101, and there's Leo4j right there. Here's invoke, grab the hash. You can catch all sorts of stuff because this Leo4j is all over the place. And the word Amnesiac is all over the place. So I'm not sure to what level adversaries are going to obfuscate this code, but looking for pipe server, that would be hard to obfuscate because pipe server, they're looking for the particular, they have to call the name pipe, right? There's no way that it functions without that. So that gives you a good way of finding this, but multiple ways of finding this because Defender isn't, and many EDRs may not. This is a newer project. All right, I'm giving you the red and the blue. Once again, the purple team view. And that's all I have for you this week. Hack the planet to defend better.